Texas actually did it! After barely losing to Alabama last year at home by only 1 point, the Texas Longhorns came out and won decisively over Alabama in Alabama 34-24. Quinn Ewers had himself a career night, and overall, Alabama has a lot of questions to discuss. But you already know what I'm gonna say next. What did we learn from Texas versus Alabama? Let's get into it. So every college football fan had this Texas versus Alabama game circled on their calendars, seeing as to how close the game was last year. And last year, Texas's star quarterback Quinn Ewers didn't even play pretty much the whole game. If you guys remember, Alabama sacked Quinn Ewers and messed up his shoulder in their first meeting last year. So Quinn Ewers was out for a good chunk of that season. And then Hudson Card to come in there. He played well, but he's not Quinn Ewers. And then overall, Alabama and Texas, it was like a pretty equal matchup. This year, it's sad to say, but Texas took a step forward. Alabama took a step back. But before we get into this video, leave this video a like if you want to see me continue to break down each of the major matchups in every single week of the college football season, as well as comment down below your thoughts on this game. This was a defining game. I mean, Texas is going into the SEC next year. This was a very, very, very big and defining game. So, hey, I need to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section, and hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you do not miss out on any of the fire videos that we drop each and every single week. And on top of that, today is the start of the NFL season, and guys, take full advantage and bet with BUSR. They have a 100% sportsbook deposit match running right now. By clicking the link in the top of the description, you guys will get a 100% deposit match up to $2,500. Guys, bet with confidence this NFL season and bet with BUSR. They're who I'm going to be making all my sportsbook bets with this season. Guys, bet with confidence, bet smarter, bet with BUSR. Starting it off, I first want to break down Alabama because there's a lot of different angles that I want to attack what happened to Alabama. First and foremost, I want to address, I know that a lot of people were really scared with this whole NIL era that we're in. Everybody thought that just the big name schools were going to be able to get even more of the talent because they're going to have more money to spend on players. However, it has been the exact opposite of that. I don't think we've ever seen such diverse spreading of the talent in college football ever, at least in the modern college football era. Realistically, you have between 6 to 10 teams in college football right now that could all win the national championship. I love seeing that there's just not this de facto #1 team. I mean, Michigan's looking solid, but they're not looking like world beaters. Georgia's looking solid. We just haven't seen them play anybody yet, so they're still on the question. They're still questionable, especially with their new quarterback, Carson Beck. Ohio State's looking very vulnerable. USC's on the rise. Florida State's looking like there's a lot of really, really talented teams in college football right now. And I believe a lot of that is because NIL has helped spread out the talent in college football. But where I really see how NIL affected college football, but primarily affected Alabama, is at the quarterback position. Alabama went on a crazy run of talented quarterbacks. I mean, where did they go from Jalen Hurts to Tua to Mac Jones to Bryce Young? Like, they had a ridiculous string of talent in that quarterback room, and then you just take a massive regress with Jalen Milroe. Like, Jalen Milroe to me is just a more explosive Jalen Hurts, but without hardly any of the throwing ability. Jalen Milroe in last night's game went 14 for 27, throwing for 255 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He also had 15 carries for 44 yards. Overall, Jalen Milroe, he just did not play up to the level that Alabama quarterbacks need to play at. Coming into this season, Nick Saban was like, we're going to get back to smash mouth football. We're going to just be running the ball all over the place. And everybody got really excited because they thought like, oh yeah, Alabama's going back to their roots. He said that because that's what they have to do, not because what they want to do. Jalen Milroe is not able to go out there and throw the ball 35, 40 times and come out with the win. He's a quarterback that, like the stat line that he had tonight, throw it around 20 to 25 times, hope that he doesn't throw a pick, and then let him get over 50 yards rushing. Like, he is not a quarterback that is going to go out there and win you games. He is a game manager. Quinn Ewers, That's a guy who can go out there and win you some games. Jalen Milroe, he's a guy that you're pretty much playing damage control with. Jalen Milroe is a redshirt sophomore, but you would think with him being at Alabama and being in college football, for this being his 3rd season now, I mean, obviously he's had 2 full seasons underneath his belt. This is his 3rd season. You would think that his throwing would have come a lot longer by now. To me, if I didn't know that he was already from Texas, I would have thought that he's a Florida quarterback. I have a stigma with all Florida quarterbacks. Great athletes, they all can run. They're terrible passers, but every now and again, but they have elite level arms. Like literally some of the strongest arms you will see coming of any quarterback from any state, but they're not accurate at all. That's what Jalen Milroe is. He's from Katy, Texas, so obviously he's not from Florida, but he has one of the just most gifted arms in college football. When he lets that ball go deep, it looks like he's just flicking his wrist and that ball goes 60 yards like it's nothing. But it's not accurate. He wasn't on point and he wasn't in tune with his wide receivers. He was overthrowing passes. Overall, he just struggled in this game. Now, it doesn't help that Texas's defense was playing out of their mind in this game, but we'll get to that when we break down Texas. Overall, Alabama, they were not able to protect Jalen Milroe. With a quarterback that is as inexperienced at throwing the ball as Jalen Milroe, you need your offensive line to be able to protect him. And that was the last thing that they did. Alabama gave up 5 sacks and 9 tackles for loss to the Texas Longhorns. 5 times that your quarterback was on the ground is unacceptable. And it wasn't even like Jalen Milroe was out there just trying to like make something happen, scrambling all around the backfield. Like, no, like this is pressure right up the middle, right off the edge, just getting home. Like, you need to be able to protect the quarterback a little bit better than that. And they just simply were not able to do that. And again, going back to the NIL era that we're in, when you can't just stock up 5 deep of NFL talent on your roster every single year, you are gonna struggle. Like at the end of the day, Alabama, don't get me wrong, I'm not just like pooping on Coach Saban now, like oh, he was just a quarterback or he was just a coach just dominating because of the players that he had. Don't get me wrong, that helps. All I'm saying is that the playing field's leveling out a little bit, and there's gonna be more talent and more teams that can really vie against the Alabamas and Georgias of the world. That's all I'm saying. When you're not able to land players like Anthony Hill, who ends up going to Texas, like those are big players that you're missing out on each and every single year that end up beating you when you play them. But the crazy thing is Jalen Milroe's play wasn't even the biggest reason why Alabama lost this game. The reason why Alabama lost this game is the same reason why they should have lost the game last season. Penalties. I have never seen in back-to-back seasons such undisciplined Alabama play. When you think of Alabama, you think of perfection, like literal perfection on the college football field. You think of discipline. You think of always knowing what your assignment is, not 10 penalties for 90 yards. Last year in this game, Alabama had over 15 penalties, which was the most penalties ever by a Nick Saban coach team. And then they come back with 10 penalties in this game. It was absolutely terrible. Between the false starts and then Terry and Arnold seeming to get 15 pass interference penalties. Like literally Terry and Arnold had at bare minimum 3 holding penalties on the defensive side of the ball. Like, or 3 holding or pass interference. It was just bad on his part. Like he was selling the game. He was getting cooked the entire game. But between just all the false, like just penalties that you can stop. You could prevent these penalties. A lot of pre-snap penalties and then just pass interference / holding penalties. Like really, really bad stuff. Alabama needs to get it together. I don't know if it's because they just don't have the talent anymore. I don't know if Nick Saban's not able to draw the same respect that he was once able to before. I don't know what it is, but Alabama on offense looked horrible. They were not able to run the ball effectively. They weren't able to pass the ball effectively. I mean, their top rusher was Jace McClellan, who had 12 carries for 45 yards, averaging 3.8 yards a carry. And then their top receivers, Kobe Prentice, had 5 catches for 68 yards, and Jermaine Burton had 2 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown, and Amari Neblack had 2 catches for 45 yards and 1 touchdown. I have not seen a Alabama defense, specifically their secondary, that it just has so many holes in it. Like, Alabama did a phenomenal job of stopping the Texas run. They did a good job of keeping Texas's leading rusher, Jonathan Brooks, to only 14 carries for 57 yards and 1 touchdown. And then the second leading rusher, CJ Baxter, had 11 carries for 31 yards. Those are great numbers to keep a team underneath. Like, phenomenal job that Alabama did stopping the Texas run. But Alabama got cooked when it came to the deep ball in this game. Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold simply could not match up with the speed that Texas has in their wide receiver core and then the big bodies that they have on the inside. Overall, it is going to be a long season for all of my Alabama fans. You need to figure out what you're doing at quarterback. You need to either come up with some more ways to use maybe like an early Jalen Hurts, where, but even early Jalen Hurts was a more complete passer than Jalen Milroe is right now. Like, you're probably gonna have to go to Ty Simpson or to Tyler Buckner. I think that's how you say his last name. You're gonna need to go to a more traditional quarterback. Don't get me wrong, I know and I love the upside that Jalen Milroe has. When he is on, he is one of the most explosive quarterbacks in all of college football. I mean, that speed with that size is dangerous. But it doesn't mean anything if you can't throw the ball to save your life. He couldn't hit the deep ball. He was just, it was just really, really bad on Jalen Milroe's part. We're gonna need to see some more. Their secondary needs to tighten up. Drop all the penalties, and then you need to be able to secure that secondary. Alabama, don't get me wrong, they're not done. They're still Alabama. They still got great talent. They're still gonna beat most teams just based off of talent alone. But in the games that matter, they need to really lock in, because you cannot give up almost 100 yards in penalties and then throw 2 interceptions and expect to even have this game be as close as it was. And now switching over to the Texas Longhorns. Hey, you finally did it, Texas. I know that everybody, I get it. Texas has the same syndrome that the Cowboys do. Everyone, every single year is gonna be like, oh, Texas is back, Texas is back, Texas. No, Texas is actually back this year. Coach Sark actually did it and built a team that can really contend for a national championship. Quinn Ewers finally put it all together and put together a masterclass of a college football game. And this was the game that really solidified Quinn Ewers as being one of the top quarterbacks in the country and not just being all hype. In this game, Quinn Ewers went 24 for 38, throwing for 349 yards with 3 touchdowns. Quinn Ewers was absolutely efficient in this game, but the #1 area that really I was so happy to see is that he finally got his deep ball figured out. Coming out of high school, Quinn Ewers was being heralded as this next Aaron Rodgers, specifically by me. But overall, like, this crazy arm talent. He can throw the ball a mile, and the upside, if he's ever able to get that arm under control, was out of this world. Early on, Quinn Ewers struggled heavily to throw that deep ball at Texas. He could throw all the underneath and intermediate stuff, but they just could not hit on the deep passes to save their life. This game that they did. I mean, listen to the receiving stats that the Texas Longhorns had, and then listen to the longest catch that they had in this game. Their leading receiver, Jatavion Sanders, he is going to be one of the best tight end prospects going into the NFL this next season, had 5 catches for 114 yards with a 50-yard long reception. Adonai Mitchell had 3 catches for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns with a 39-yard long catch. Xavier Worthy had 5 catches for 75 yards with 1 touchdown and a 44-yard long. Jordan Whittington had 3 catches for 44 yards and a 31-yard long reception. And most of those weren't just like yard after the catch plays. Those were like deep shots, big time, just dropping the ball into the basket. Like, I mean, Quinn Ewers was throwing some absolute darts and just beautifully putting the ball into the breadbasket. I just absolutely love what I saw from Quinn Ewers, and he played out of his mind in this game. Now, one area that Texas didn't necessarily shine the most in was their running game. They didn't really need to, just because of how effective that their passing game was. But when you play other teams that are gonna have better secondaries than Alabama, you're gonna need to be able to have a better balance of running and passing the ball. Texas's running stats were Jonathan Brooks had 14 carries for 57 yards and 1 touchdown, and freshman CJ Baxter had 11 carries for 31 yards. That's just not getting it done overall in the running game. Like, you need to have more effective rushing from your you have 2 star backs. I mean, those 2 guys are extremely talented. They're not Bijan Robinson, but they're extremely talented. You're gonna need a little bit more push. Overall, Texas did a great job of protecting Quinn Ewers and giving him a clean pocket. It was really getting that push in the running game that they just weren't able to overpower Alabama, which I don't care how bad of an Alabama team you're going up against. Pushing them around on the defensive line is not going to be it's just not going to be an easy day for you. But overall, I would have liked to see them have a couple more big plays in the running game, have a little bit more consistency and not have to really just go away from the running game for stretches of the game. That's one area that I think Texas really needs to improve going forward. I think they have a plan for that. I really just believe that they came into this game saying Quinn Ewers is going to beat Alabama and he's going to beat him with his arm, and we're going to use our running game to just supplement that, to just supplement Quinn Ewers. Because overall, this game was surrounded by Quinn Ewers. He put on an absolute clinic, and I love the way that Coach Sharpe was using Quinn Ewers. Just phenomenal job of just getting the ball out of his hands early, you know, quick swing passes, just a lot of really quick passes, and then finding your times to pick your shots, you know, just, okay, everything was underneath. Okay, bring up the Alabama secondary a little bit, and then boom, go deep on them. I felt bad for freshman Caleb Downs. He's going to be a star at Alabama, but he did get exposed in this game. As the star secondary, or as the star safety of this team, you need to be able to stay deep for Alabama. And there was so many times where, I don't know if his eyes got wide because he thought he was about to get a pick. I don't know what it was, but he kept on crashing down, letting Adonai Mitchell or Xavier Worthy just get right behind him. And then Quinn Ewers beautifully hit his wide receivers perfectly in stride and just really exposed Alabama in this game. Phenomenal job from the Texas Longhorns offense. I loved what I saw. Now let's talk about their defense. The 2 interceptions that the Longhorns got in this game, they were good, but you know, it was primarily just Jalen Milroe just throwing just absolute blessings to the defense. The defensive line for the Texas Longhorns absolutely showed out in this game. Like I said earlier, Texas had 5 sacks with 9 tackles for loss in this game. They were able to cause consistent havoc and pressure on the quarterback and just getting in the backfield almost at will. And what you really love to see was that the young guys were the ones causing the most havoc. Sophomore Ethan Burke, he had four solo tackles with 1 sack and 2 tackles for loss. And then your dominant 5-star linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. had 6 total tackles, 4 solo tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 tackles for loss. In combination with all of the recruits that Texas is bringing in this 2024 recruiting class, Texas is going to be more than good when they go to the SEC. I know that was the biggest question mark with Texas moving to the SEC is how are they going to play on the defensive line? How are they going to get big enough, fast enough, athletic enough on the defensive line to be able to hang with these SEC defenses? Newsflash, they're more than capable of handling that. They did a phenomenal job of just creating havoc around Jalen Milroe, making his life absolutely miserable, not letting Alabama get into a consistent running game. Again, held Alabama to barely over 100 rushing yards in a game where their quarterback is one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the entire country. Texas did a phenomenal job. Their game plan on defense was absolutely perfect. Pretty much just saying, hey, Jalen Milroe, beat us through the air if you can. Overall, Texas did not have as many penalties. They played a more concise game. Overall, Texas should be the fifth best team in the country after this win. Texas is looking like they could go in the college football playoffs. Like, I'm so excited to see who are the final 4 teams in this year's college football playoffs. I'm tired of seeing this. We already know who's going to be in the national championship setup. I want to see 4 teams that can absolutely win the college football championship. And I'm excited because I genuinely believe that Texas football is back. But I want to hear from all y'all. Comment down below your thoughts on this Texas versus Alabama game. Texas got their retribution from last season, won in Alabama decisively with a 10-point victory. Just a phenomenal game from the Longhorns. Alabama, you got a lot of work to do. You got to go to the drawing board, figure out your identity on offense, and just play way more disciplined on defense. Like, way more. I want to hear you guys' thoughts down below. Comment your thoughts down below. Leave this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and turn on your notifications. I love and appreciate each and every single last one of y'all, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Ciao.